22 years actually, but who's counting? All right, so I want to read a little bit from this new book I've just brought out, Road Trips. Among the many stupid things I did in my 20s, some of them were these various road trips I went on. And actually the book is not, I'm not on the road that much on these books. Mostly it's about why I went and how, what came of having gone. But in the middle, as I say about traveling, you know, it's this thing you have to do so that you can anticipate something and you can reminisce about something. So these road trips, there is a road trip in each of these 4 or 5 sections of this book. And so I'm going to read a little piece from one of those. And in this case, you know, it was 1972, it was December, I was in Washington, D.C., I needed to get to San Francisco, I didn't have any money, so I got a driveway. You guys know what a driveway is?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think they still exist. You know, this was this kind of company where a guy like me could go and say, I want to drive a car someplace. And somebody with a car could come there and say, I want someone to drive my car someplace. And then they'd put these two together. And I'm betting these companies no longer exist because so many cars were stolen. I can't imagine why that didn't happen. But anyway, I wasn't a thief, and I got a car, and you know, they didn't pay me, I didn't pay them. The only thing was I had to pay for my own gas. And it was December, I headed off. I had just enough money for gas, but not enough for lodging, not enough for food. And right at the end, it occurred to me that, wait a minute, driving from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco alone, I might need to do those two things. But I had people to crash with, I had some friends, and I had somebody in Newton, Iowa, and then I had someone in Laramie, Wyoming. But nobody in between. So, by the time I pulled out of Mrs. Van Doren's driveway, this is in Newton, Iowa, full-on winter had arrived. I remembered Midwestern winters as cold but clear, light without heat. But the day I left Newton, the sky was gray and the wind was beginning to howl. In Nebraska, snow started to fall. Periodically, I saw trucks that had slid off the highway. Deep banks of snow were piling up along both sides of the road. The radio was talking about a storm that stretched from Buffalo to Wyoming. Tons of disabled private cars lined the highway. Thank God my car was damn near new, a Dodge Colt that had only 500 miles on it when I left Washington. Let me repeat those words, a Dodge Colt. I passed a semi lying on its side like a dead elephant. The people gathered around it looked helpless. The snowbanks were closing in. I kept arriving where no plow had come yet. For a while, cars were tramping the snow into mush, keeping two middle lanes clear, but after a while, not completely clear. And a while after that, we were all driving on a few inches of slush. And then the banks had piled up high enough and had closed in enough to squeeze westbound traffic into a single lane flanked by white walls. Night fell, but I kept driving because I couldn't afford a motel and had no one to crash with. The next time I slept in a bed would have to be in Laramie with Cousin Jim's family. Unfortunately, Laramie was in Wyoming and I was in Nebraska. I was driving at top speed because arriving in Laramie in the middle of the night would not have felt polite, even though Ralph's relatives, this wasn't my cousin, it was somebody's cousin, even though Ralph's relatives were practically like my own. But driving at top speed didn't feel wise either because cars were sliding off the road by the dozens. I saw another one in the ditch every few miles and I thought, oh man, I cannot afford for that to happen to me. Darkness fell and the road started getting icy. But another hour would get me out of Nebraska if I kept the needle at 60. I couldn't just keep going though. I needed fuel. A gas station sign loomed up, so I got off at the exit, swung down a steep incline, turned left, went under the freeway, and made my way down an even steeper ramp into a standard station. The sign had been visible for miles, but for some reason, it was out now. Eerie. And the station closed. I got out and made my way to the office to peer through the windows. Uh-oh. More than closed, more than dark. This place looked boarded up and abandoned for years. How unsettling. I hurried back to the car because the temperature had dropped in just those few minutes. Later I found out it dropped, I think, 30 degrees in 2.5 minutes. It was now the kind of cold that hurts the face. Bits of ice were swirling in the wind like glass shrapnel. I was so glad to get back in the car and shut the door. So eager to get back on the road. I checked my watch. Yikes, 10 o'clock already. I turned the key. A red light went on, but nothing else happened. There was no engine sound, not even the click-click of the starter motor. For some reason, the car was dead. Thank you.